Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to stage the National Biodiesel Board's Technical Director and our session's moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Fenwick.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this afternoon's Main Stage event, In It for the Long Haul, as well as our biodiesel vehicle showcase. The video you saw just now, somehow my card didn't make the cut. I thought it should have, but you're going to see and hear a lot about diesel vehicle technology today. As you know, there's much talk in the marketplace today about the future of the transportation industry and the role of liquid fuels will have within it. There's no doubt in the future of the fuels market is heavily influenced by the future of the vehicle technology market, and vice versa. The two are inseparable. So we're very fortunate to have with us today a panel of experts representing some of the top industry associations on the front lines of our nation's transportation future to discuss their perspectives on the road ahead. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists. First is the incoming president of the National Association of Fleet Administrators, or NAFA, as well as the Fleet Fuel Operations Specialist for Florida Power and Light, Patti Earley. Secondly is the Director of Policy and External Affairs for the Diesel Technology Forum, or DTF, Ezra Finkin. Ezra? And also joining us is the Senior Director of Fleet Relations for the National Truck and Equipment Association, or NTEA, George Survant. Thank you all for joining us here today. It's great to have such a wealth of experience. Let's have a seat and get started. So I'd first like to ask each of you, first question, to tell us a little bit more about your individual backgrounds, as well as the transportation industry, as well as your current role in the organizations that you serve. What major changes have you seen in fleet transportation over the years? And what do you see as some of the major tipping points for the future? George, let's start with you.
I've managed fleets in 49 states and some Pacific Rim countries, including Korea, Philippines, and Okinawa, and private call. Myself, a graduate of the Hawaiian Telephone School of Management. I work with the NTEA now as Senior Director of Fleet Relations.
Ezra, how about yourself?
Well, first of all, I do not have the wealth of experience that George has, but I'll hopefully provide you with some insights that I have from the short time that I've been working in the industry. I actually started off 20 years ago working with retailers on trade policy, and at that time there wasn't a whole lot to do on trade policy, but there was a whole lot to do on sustainable supply chain and supply chain management. So I had to quickly get up to speed on all sorts of EPA standards on emissions as it relates to trucks and marine ocean-going vessels and heavy-duty equipment. And I have, since that time, transitioned to the Diesel Technology Forum, where I serve as the Policy and Outreach Director for a group that represents diesel engine vehicle equipment manufacturers, including the National Biodiesel Board. So thank you all very much for the support that you provided us.
Thank you. And Patti, tell us about your experience both with FP&L and NAFA.
Okay, well, first of all, NAFA is an organization of about 3,000 members that serves the fleet manager community. So it's the fleet managers and then the support services that go along with that. And I will be the incoming president in February, so next month. As far as my real paying job, I started with fleet over 30 years ago. Not quite as long ago as George, but over 30 years ago. I started out as the fleet manager for South Dakota State University, then became the Deputy State Director of Fleet and Travel Management for the state of South Dakota. And then about 13 years ago, I traded in my snow shovel and my scraper and moved to Florida to work for FP&L. And when you ask about changes that I've seen in that 30 years, it's pretty amazing. The technologies that we've seen change on vehicles, it's pretty incredible change, and it's getting faster and faster all the time. I know one thing that we're using, we have a number of plug-in hybrid electric bucket trucks, and we run those on biodiesel. So you're seeing not only the savings from the plug-in hybrid electric, but also running that with the biodiesel really shows a huge reduction in emissions for us.
That's fantastic. As a benefit to our audience, Ezra, can you briefly summarize the fuel economy, CO2 regulations that those OEMs or those original equipment manufacturers are facing, and the various options that they're considering to meet those lofty goals? Why do diesel powertrains and advanced biofuels, such as biodiesel and renewable diesel, continue to play an important part in the fuel mix for those OEMs?
Sure. I spend a lot of my time looking at regulations and the fuel economy standards that are on the books today. I definitely committed to memory, but that is a very dangerous thing, so I have a little cheat sheet here to make sure that I am honest with the information I give you. So we are already in the first ever fuel economy standard for heavy-duty vehicles and equipment. I'm sure most of you are aware of that, but just to give you a little background as to the benefits that those standards provide. Again, these are for commercial vehicles. EPA estimates that over the lifetime of the rule from 2014 to 2018, those benefits include 270 million tons of CO2 reduced, 530 million barrels of crude oil saved, and providing $50 billion to vehicle and equipment owners by way of fuel savings. So those are very significant benefits. Those are technologies that are actually have been adopted in new and relatively new vehicles that are on the road today. Coming up, we have the Phase 2 fuel economy standards that kick in on the vehicle side, beginning in 2021 and phase in through 2027. And those benefits are far more significant than the Phase 1 benefits. Those are 1.1 billion tons of CO2, 2 billion barrels of crude oil saved, providing 170 billion in fuel savings to vehicle and equipment manufacturers. So those are enormous benefits, not only to the vehicle and equipment owners and operators, but to society in general in terms of CO2 reduction. And in terms of the technologies that we're going to see to meet those standards, those are basically hardware technology. So that's everything from low rolling resistance tires, lightweight materials, aerodynamic trucks and trailers, and including some powertrain improvements. But the important thing here is that it is a diesel engine under the hood today, and it will be a diesel engine under the hood of these vehicles that will contribute these enormous societal benefits. And these, again, the technologies that EPA is regulating here to essentially meet these very stringent fuel economy standards for commercial vehicles, that's hardware. That says nothing about the fuel. So fleets that are choosing to use biodiesel, renewable diesel fuel, will help us get to those targets faster, if not exceed those targets. And we're seeing fleets adopt these fuels in greater numbers and with greater success. So hats off to all you folks for providing this fuel to the growing number of fleets that are looking to seriously enhance their sustainability goals and meet their goals years ahead of schedule.
The National Biodiesel Board has a long history of working with auto and engine manufacturers to provide the technical data, robust ASTM fuel specs, fuel quality assurance that's needed to earn their support for the use of biodiesel blends in their equipment and engines. In fact, the vast majority of the medium and heavy-duty truck OEMs, also key stakeholders in NTEA's membership, support B20 biodiesel blends. Similarly, NTEA has long been recognized for providing a wealth of information resources to aid truck manufacturers, equipment distributors, and end-user fleets in their strategic planning efforts and fleet vehicle procurement process. So George, what have some of NTEA's recent research shown about the current and future demand for diesel vehicles and use of biodiesel blends in those vehicles?
The data that you're going to see in these slides include information that's pre-publication, which we were eager to share with this group from our annual survey of fleets and fuel users. There are a number of questions directly related in our fleet survey to the use of biodiesel, which has expanded over time because of the importance of biodiesel to the trucking community as a whole, vocational trucks specifically, and the growth of readily available access to good quality biodiesel products. The first graph that you'll see, and I'm not going to spend a long time talking about this, these slides will be available to you as attendees in the near future. What you're seeing here is an EIA slide, Energy Information Agency, which shows production and demand for biodiesel over time. What's fairly fascinating about this is you can see a nice steady progression of growth in both demand and production. One of the most encouraging things about the slide that I want to leave you with is that the ability to expand production to meet the demand has proven to be fairly reliable. And that's very good news if you're in the business of buying a critical engine resource or a critical fleet resource like fuel. Again, these are somewhat eye charts. Biodiesel is the top block of bars. Those bars represent different years use. You'll notice that biodiesel is one of the very top sources of alternative fuels, and it's particularly interesting in that E85, the next largest contributor to the biofuels use, is government mandated in any number of states. So biodiesel stands on its own and has earned its way to the top of the heap with its characteristics and top reliable performance. This is the slide about the future anticipated use of biodiesel. You can see that there continues to be very strong interest going forward. The bottom bar, for those of you that are sitting in the front, because I know no one past the front has any chance of seeing the rest of this, but the bottom bar is the most recent year. So you can see these are very strong trends. This is biodiesel usage, and is it seasonal or not? And we thought this was a particularly interesting question, and this is the first year that we've asked this. And you'll note that 35% roughly of users consider this a seasonal fuel, but given that this fuel is used all over North America, it's not a big surprise that some fleets really find it challenging in the worst of the winter months. If you were in Minnesota with me yesterday, the walkway was -5 degrees off that plane. So I don't know how anything operates, much less fuel-driven diesel engine. The last slide I have for you is a percent of blends. And it's fairly interesting that I think the blend availability by market may drive this as much as the choice of the fleet operator. I know that when we had operations across North America, in some locations it was very hard to find on a consistent basis through the retail distribution market. If you have questions about this purchasing survey has a wealth of data. It also suggests, although we didn't have the numbers compiled, that diesel sales looking into the future will continue to be strong and stretch the capabilities of the OEMs in terms of meeting their manufacturing commitments. Any questions, of course, will be available after that.
We appreciate that information, and it's great to offer our attendees that preview before it's publicly available. Patti, I'd like to ask you, from your perspective as the Fleet Fuel Operations Specialist for Florida Power and Light, FPL has become known throughout Florida, as well as the rest of the country, as a true biodiesel success story in terms of going all in implementing biodiesel throughout your operations. Can you tell folks a bit about the extent of your operations regarding biodiesel at FP&L and why the fuel makes sense for your fleet?
Well, I'm actually going to start with the last part of that question. So the fuel makes sense for us. Biodiesel is very easy to use. It's a drop-in fuel. You don't have to have special infrastructure. FPL's parent company is NextEra Energy. So FPL is the regulated utility in the state of Florida. But our sister company, Nextar Energy Resources, is the unregulated side of the company that does mostly outside the state of Florida. So we do business in 31 states and I believe 5 provinces in Canada, and we are the largest provider of electricity from the wind and the sun in the world. So obviously we're a very green company. We pride ourselves on being a very green company, so biodiesel really fits into that. And as you can see on the slide, we're very proud of the fact we burn biodiesel. It's right on the side of all of our vehicles that we're burning biodiesel in those vehicles. We started our program back in 1999 in a limited study in parts of the fleet. We tracked, the performance and the miles per gallon and maintenance just to see how it compared to regular diesel fuel, and we really could see no difference. So it was adopted fleet-wide. In 2004, 2005, Florida had a very nasty couple of years of hurricane season. And one thing that becomes very apparent when you're doing emergency restoration is that during that time, it is very difficult to get a hold of fuel. Fuel can be a major challenge. So we went out and leased tank space at that time to be able to store fuel. And that allowed us the opportunity to really start blending our own B20 biodiesel. In 2014, we refurbished a tank of our own, so I actually have a 4.8 million gallon tank that sits near my office that we blend bio. We also started selling biodiesel. For years, we had done outreach to fleets and clean cities and other municipalities and just told them our biodiesel story. So we would have them come to us after the presentation and go, we like what you do, we like the way you handle your quality and your testing, can we buy it from you? And we would have to say, sorry, we can't sell it to you. But we changed that. So in 2015, we actually started selling biodiesel to other fleets. And something else exciting we have going on right now, in about 2 months, we'll be commissioning 2 additional tanks down in Port Everglades. One is a 1 million gallon biodiesel tank, one is a 1 million gallon ultra low sulfur diesel tank, and we have an injection blending system, so we'll be able to blend biodiesel to any strength we want. Because it's my preference to burn B30, so I'll be able to burn B30.
That is great news. So as we look down the road of the future, I'd like to ask each of our panelists, how do you see diesel vehicles powered by biodiesel blends fitting into that mix? What challenges, opportunities do you see for the biodiesel industry in order for them to stay in it for the long haul? And George, we'll start with you.
In my role at the NTEA, I speak to a lot of fleet operators, and there continues to be some level of misconception in the general fleet community about how good a contribution biodiesel can make to their operation. There always, when you face significant levels of change, there's a tendency to want to say, well, I'm going to wait for that over-the-fence hit, that silver bullet solution. And the practical fact is, most fleet operators that are burning significant amount of diesel, not using biodiesel, are missing a great opportunity to start cleaning their emissions and improving the quality of their fleet operation today. That business about waiting till you get a better product or waiting till you get something that's going to solve all your ills is generally a fairly short-sighted perspective, in my opinion. The best opportunities for the biodiesel industry in the future is to continue to rack up your successes, continue to build a reputation of a good quality product that can be delivered and distributed nationwide and available to fleets large and small.
Ezra, what about you? What additional opportunities and challenges do you foresee in the future?
Yeah, we were thinking about this in preparation for the panel here, and I would say that the challenges are great and the opportunities are even greater. So whenever we're out there, again, my role here at the Diesel Technology Forum is to outreach directly to policymakers and research community folks at the environmental NGOs, health NGOs. That's my role. And everything that we do in terms of our outreach to that community, policymakers and think tank researchers, NGOs, is clouded under the Volkswagen emissions cheating scandal. So every time we meet with somebody, even though that event happened almost 4 going on 5 years ago, very often we get a lot of eyes rolling and folks who just fundamentally don't understand technology, and they really do believe that the unfortunate decision made by one manufacturer now clouds the entire industry. So we spend an enormous amount of time trying to educate folks about the benefits of clean diesel technology, including the fuels, including the benefits of biodiesel and renewable diesel fuels. So we anticipate that challenge is going to be out there, and it's something that we have to respond to pretty much on a daily basis. There are folks in our office who do media outreach, and it's very much a part of what they do intensively on a daily basis. And I would say the other challenge is we now have a growing list of progressive states, and more importantly, progressive municipalities that are looking to make fundamental decisions relating to sustainability for their fleets. And I think an important bellwether here is to look what's happening across the pond, so to speak, in Europe. And all sorts of efforts, again, at the municipal level, almost a growing list of municipalities that are looking to ban the internal combustion engine. We haven't seen that at such a robust level here in the United States yet. I think we will. Like I said, there is a long list and growing list of municipalities that are looking to really boost their sustainability credentials by making statements about the need to invest in zero-emission vehicle technologies. There are still yet some states, governors, as well as some municipalities that have stated that it's their intention to divest in fossil fuels. I think and it all goes back to the internal combustion engine technology. And here at the Diesel Technology Forum, one of the great opportunities there is to say, why do you need to ban the internal combustion engine? You can have the internal combustion engine run on things other than fossil fuels, biodiesel, renewable diesel fuel. So I think that the fuel that you folks manufacture and produce and sell represents an enormous opportunity in that debate. And here at the forum, representing the engine manufacturers and the vehicle and pieces of equipment that they manufacture as well, they're operating under all sorts of different regulations. I talked a little bit about CO2 emissions and the very stringent standards that have been established coming up quickly. Already, manufacturers have to meet very stringent emission standards for NOx. It's a smog-forming compound, ground-level ozone, the ground-level ozone-forming compound. But already manufacturers have stepped up. They understand that technology is out there, and it's technically feasible to meet an even lower NOx standard. The industry has actually stated that they would like to be regulated for the purpose of getting technology out the door to further reduce NOx, all while meeting these enormously stringent standards for CO2. So I think in the opportunity column, there's a big check mark for diesel technology in terms of meeting standards that improve air quality, along with standards that significantly boost sustainability credentials by reducing CO2, not only by hardware, but also on the fuel side with biodiesel and renewable diesel fuel.
That would be great. Patti, you've got a huge opportunity stepping in as the incoming leader of the National Association of Fuel Administrators. What will your messages be looking into the future?
The fleets that I know are all worried about sustainability. They're all worried about being clean. They just need the opportunity to be able to do that in their fleet. For a lot of the municipalities, the issue is always money. So they can't necessarily go out and spend money on different technologies. So for them, biodiesel is a great fit. And NAFA, promotes all forms of alternative fuels and alternative technologies. But I just think biodiesel is one of the easiest ones that fleets can fit into, economically fit into their operations.
I think it's great, the value and the partnership and working with each of you and your organizations. Please thank me and join me in thanking our panelists for their insight, experience, and perspective with us today. National Biodiesel Board sincerely appreciates, working with NTEA, National Association of Fleet Administrators, and the DTF And we look forward to those continued partnerships as we work together to ensure that diesel engines powered by biodiesel blends are indeed in it for the long haul. Let's give them all one last round of applause.
And now, here to present the ION Biodiesel Industry Partnership Awards. Please help me welcome to stage NBB's Senior Technical Advisor, Steve Howell.
Thanks, everybody. Confidence in and promotion of biodiesel and fleet operations is instrumental to the overall success of America's advanced biofuel. NTEA, the Work Truck Association, has been a key industry partner and continues to help the biodiesel market thrive. NTE represents more than 2,000 companies that manufacture, distribute, install, and sell and repair commercial trucks. They also provide in-depth technical information, education, member programs, and services, as you just saw the great piece of information that you heard from George Survant just a bit ago. NBB partnership with NTEA has been instrumental in getting that critical information into the audience of the work truck industry. Please help us recognize this year's Industry Partnership Award winner, the National Truck Equipment Association, and here to accept the award on their behalf is Senior Director of Fleet Relations, George Survant. George?
Take a deep breath. This is not open mic. It's really a great honor to be partnered with a team like the National Biodiesel Board that are making a significant difference in the future of transportation here in North America. It's great to be with a winning association. At the NTEA, we put on a little show in Indianapolis that some of you have visited. We'd all like to invite you. I think last year we had about 13,000 people, but it's our partnership with organizations like NAFTA and National Biodiesel Board and some other organizations that makes us strong and productive and effective. And I can't thank you enough on the part of the NTEA for this award. Thank you.